What do you need to be aware of when exporting an EAR99 item? How do you prevent your company or yourself from being involved in illegal or prohibited shipments? Are there lists you can screen your customers against? What types of information should you pay attention to that would raise a concern about your transaction? These are all questions you may have, and we have the answers. Hello, my name is Clarabelle, and I work for the Bureau of Industry and Security at the U.S. Department of Commerce. The following clip is an example of the type of call our agency often receives from exporters regarding screening of transactions for exports of EAR99 items. EAR99 is a basket category designated to cover most commercial items that are exported out of the United States. If your item is not described in an export control classification number on the Commerce Control List, then it is designated as EAR99. I hope that it will explain the importance of screening your transaction when exporting commercial products. Let's get started.
Hello, Exporter Counseling. This is Douglas speaking. How may I assist you?
Hi, I think I spoke to you earlier.
I'm exporting parts for a printing press to England, and my forwarder asked me about the Export Control Classification Number, or ECCN, for my product.
Yes, I think I remember. You were going to give us a call back after you had reviewed the Commerce Control List to try to find your ECCN for the item, correct?
Yes, that's right.
After we spoke, I went to the BIS website, bis.doc.gov, and didn't find my items listed anywhere on the Commerce Control List, so I determined that my items are EAR99. But I still have a few questions.
Well, I'm happy to help you with those. What questions do you have?
I was thinking, since the items are not on the Commerce Control List and therefore designated EAR99, do I just go ahead and ship?
Well, not quite. Although you're right, items designated as EAR99 are not listed under any ECCN on the Commerce Control List. They are still subject to the Export Administration Regulations, or EAR, and you do need to be aware that in some circumstances, a license may be required even for an EAR99 item.
Really? I thought that EAR99 meant that there weren't any restrictions and that I could ship using the designation No License Required, or NLR, in the Automated Export Record System.
Well, you're halfway there. In general, items that are designated as EAR99 can be exported to almost all destinations without a license under the designation NLR, or No License Required. But if your proposed export is to an end user of concern in support of a prohibited end use, or to an embargoed country or sanctioned country, you may be required to obtain a license, and in some cases, not to be authorized to export at all.
I think you did mention that when we first spoke.
Yes, it's important to keep in mind that a license requirement may be triggered for a transaction that does not normally require a license, and that would be based on the end use or end user.
I know who my customer is, and they're in the printing business. What should I look for?
Well, the EAR contains end user and end use controls that are related to nuclear, missile technology, and chemical and biological weapons in countries of concern, or in some cases, worldwide. These regulations, they ensure that transactions that raise proliferation concerns are reviewed by BIS, the Bureau of Industry and Security, first. On our home page, you can select Export Administration Regulations, and when you click on that link, you'll be able to read Part 744 and get more information on end user and end use controls.
I can see why we would want to be sure that U.S. products aren't going to those types of activities.
Yes. In fact, BIS may also inform the exporter that a license is required when there is an unacceptable risk of use in or diversion to any of the specified activities. One way we inform the public about the proliferation and end user concerns is through the entities list. It includes entities whose activities impose a risk of diverting items to programs related to weapons of mass destruction. It also includes certain entities sanctioned by the U.S. Department of State.
Where do I find this list?
Are you still on our website?
Yes, let me go back to the home page.
That's always a good place to start. The link is located right there. On the left-hand side of our homepage, under the red box that says Exporter Resources, you'll see that a link that says List to Check. If you click on that link, you will find the entities list, which we just discussed.
I see, but what about these other lists on the page?
Yes, as you point out, there are several lists. The denied persons list, the unverified list, the entities list. They are supplied by BIS. You will also see links to the specially designated nationals list supplied by the Treasury Department and the debarred list and non-proliferation sanctions list. Those are supplied by the State Department.
I don't want to get into trouble here. So what does it mean if my customer is on one of these lists? Does it mean I can't export to them?
Not necessarily. For example, if a party to a transaction is on the entities list, you may need to apply for a license. The denied persons list is a list of parties that have been denied export privileges because they violated the EAR Export Administration regulations. Dealing with one of these parties would be a violation of a denial order.
What about the unverified list?
The unverified list actually serves as a red flag. It's there to alert exporters that BIS could not verify an end user in other transactions. A red flag itself does not create an automatic license requirement.
Hey, I was in a band called the Red Flags when I was in school. I have a feeling that those aren't the red flags that you're talking about.
You're right about that. Red flags refer to abnormal circumstances indicating that the export may be destined for an inappropriate end use, end user, or destination. For example, an order for items that are inconsistent with the needs of the purchaser, such as a restaurant wholesaler ordering a machine tool, or a new customer declining installation and testing when those are included in the sales price.
So what do I do if I think there's a red flag?
Well, when red flags are raised, you have a duty to check out the suspicious circumstances and inquire further. The purpose of this inquiry and reevaluation is to determine whether the red flags can be explained or justified so as to evidence the bona fides of the party and the legitimacy of the transaction. If they can, you may proceed with the transaction. BIS provides red flags and know your customer guidance to help exporters recognize suspicious transactions. You can find these on the enforcement section of our website.
I'll be sure to check that out.
In fact, BIS recommends that businesses adopt export compliance measures to make it easier to comply with the regulations. Take a look at the link on our homepage called Compliance Program Assistance. We've also created an online training room with training modules and archived webinars. Select Seminars and Training on our homepage.
So let me go back over this to make sure I understand what we covered. When I export an item that's EAR 99 item, I want to consider whether the country I'm shipping to is sanctioned or embargoed, whether the customer is going to use the item for bad end use like nuclear proliferation, and whether my customer is one of those prohibited parties like the denied persons list or the entity list. If nothing comes up and there's nothing out of the ordinary that raises concern, red flag as you like to say, then I ship NLR.
You've got it.
Thanks so much. I can see that I have obligations even for an EAR 99 item. It's not a free pass to exporting. It is the least I can do to protect U.S. national security and foreign policy interests and prevent my company from committing export control violations.
Yes, always exercise your due diligence and determine what actions you need to take, if any. If in doubt, you can always give us a call.
We hope we have answered some of your questions regarding screening your transaction when exporting items that do not normally require an export license. You should consider whether the country you are shipping to is sanctioned or embargoed, whether your customer is going to use the item for a bad end use like nuclear proliferation, and whether your customer is on one of those prohibited parties lists like the denied persons list or entity list. You should be aware of possible red flags in your transaction and be familiar with the Know Your Customer guidance that BIS provides to avoid dealing with unauthorized parties or transactions. Thank you and have a great day.